Hi guys, it's Nicole and I'm back today with a scrapbook process video. This is going to be my January 2022 month in review. I am just doing a quick share of some product that I had pulled that I thought I might use. I tend to do this a lot. I like to pull more things than I will end up using. More as, think of it kind of like a mood board or like an inspiration board. If I use it, great. If not, it's fine. A lot of times I have like a general idea of what I want to do when I'm doing something like scene building, or I'm using a lot of like, say, card making type products. In this instance, I had a rough sketch that I was going off of and kind of a rough, I would say, idea. So I went ahead and printed my photos, and my version, I guess I would say, of month in review is I like to go through, and on my computer I have my photos sorted by year and then a folder for each month. And then in each monthly folder, I have anything that I took with my regular camera and then anything I've dropped from my cell phone, because I tend to mix stuff. Larger events, more than likely I used my real camera, otherwise everything's on my phone. So what I like to do is I like to make a list of all the things that I think are going to have a dedicated layout just for those photos, and then I kind of make a list of everything else that I think was interesting enough to include on a month in review. And this is an example of a month that I didn't have a ton of photos, and then I have some months that will have 20 to 30 photos. So again, I just go off of what large events do I have that I think need to have a separate dedicated layout, and then everything else I'm okay just kind of putting in a month in review and having it just sort of be like an at a glance look into what was going on at the time. So the like loose idea that I've got is I want to do like a winter scene. Now, it doesn't snow where I live, but that doesn't mean I can't kind of lean into the theme. So the stamps that I have, I can't really link this one. This one was a Stamp Timber exclusive where it was Lawn Fawn and Simon Says stamped together. And I want to say it's at least 2 or 3 years ago. These are those ones that sell out really quickly. It's the one time of year where it's a good thing to be in the Pacific time zone, because the stuff drops in the store at 9 p.m. my time. And so I managed to snag this one and I was super excited, but I had yet to use it. So I went ahead and pulled this out. When I stamped my images, I stamped 2 of these panels, knowing full well that it's been a very long time since I've done any Copic coloring. It's been a very long time since I've done any coloring, and I, at this point, other than knowing that my background was probably going to be that mint green, one of the 2 I had pulled out, I didn't really have like a color palette in mind. So I figured, let's stamp 2 in case I mess up. I do. So it was good that I had stamped 2. I like to go ahead and color more images than I think I'm going to need, because in my mind, I know that I can tend to be a little bit lazy when I'm in the middle of a process, and I probably won't want to go back and restamp a bunch of stuff, especially if I've already cleaned up. So I'd rather have extras, and then anything that I don't use, I just put back in my storage pocket, and they're there if I want to use them again. Now, I thought maybe I would make some little mint green birds. I colored this one and I just was not liking him. So I was like, you know what, we're going to skip that. We're going to go ahead and color in some of the like clothing pieces while I sort of think about color palettes and things like that. Eventually I settled on just doing some like light grays, so the birds would just kind of either look a little bit white or a little bit light gray. I preferred them to kind of be more neutral, and then that's going to allow me to bring color in with their little accessories and stuff. I think this was the point where I decided that I was going to do the mint green and then bring in some like dark pink, light red type of thing. I was actually kind of disappointed. I colored this cute little heart, like already anticipating putting it somewhere. There's no die to cut that heart out. I don't think I even looked at the die set. I think it's intended to sort of stamp with the stuff and not be like everything else that you die cut out. I think I just assumed that there was a die for that. I could have hand cut it out, but again, I'm a lazy scrapper, so sometimes that's just not going to happen. So I just kind of bounce around and start coloring in things that I am pretty sure that I'm going to use. My panel at this point only has one of those little snowdrift images. I don't remember if I filmed it or not, but eventually I went ahead and put that on a acrylic block, and I stamped a bunch of those because that was something that I knew would be a good method to kind of build up my scene. I liked the fact that there was 4 different tree limbs. I kind of wish there was more than one snowdrift just to kind of make them look a little bit different, but in the end, I think it turned out okay. I desperately wanted to cut out the coloring portion of this just because I'm not a coloring person. I don't normally share stuff like this in my videos, but I want to, I guess. My Copics and my watercolor markers sit out on my desk like loud and proud in my face daily, and I very rarely use them, so that's kind of something I want to focus on this year, is doing more things like this that I really enjoy. I buy a lot of card making supplies and I don't make a ton of cards. I tend to shop supplies that I know I can use on layouts. And then again, it goes back to being that lazy scrapper. I sort of forget to pull them out and use them. So I think for all of my 2022 month in review layouts, I want to pull out stuff. And like I said, definitely want to do some scene building. Some of the stuff I have planned, I wouldn't necessarily call it a scene. I think it would just be more of incorporating a lot of like card making geared supplies. So like dies and stencils and stuff like that. I did bring in that snowdrift stamp, so I have a bunch of those that I'm going to go back and color in. I think I ended up only showing you guys the one panel of this. I colored the other one pretty identical. I think I just flip-flopped the colors on like the scarves and the earmuffs and stuff so that I had some different options when it came to actually building my scene. So I went ahead and started cutting apart the dies. I don't like to load my whole panel with like all of the dies. I've had them shift on me before, so me personally, I only like to cut, say, 3, maybe 4 at a time. So you can see at the top of my desk, I've got everything sort of laid out that I have available to me. And then I decided that I was going to use this lawn fawn paper. There is a pre-printed scene across the bottom, but my photo collage perfectly covers the entire scene. And then I'm left with sort of this pre-made background of like a snowy sky. And then there's a little bit of like a snowdrift on the bottom. And for me, it's going to take a little bit of work out of creating the background. I thought about doing like ink blending and stencils and stuff like that, and I was getting frustrated because I was running into things I thought I had in my stash I either didn't buy, or maybe I just imagined that I was buying. And it doesn't surprise me because I don't have a ton of snow product to begin with because we don't get snow, but I do buy some for instances like this, where when you think about January, you think about it being winter, you think about it being cold. A lot of places that does mean snow. Here, rarely. It got super cold last week to the point that there was snow on like the hills around us, but not like in the neighborhoods. The other side of town, if it does snow, they're the ones that get it. So I did decide that I wanted to die cut my own title, but I also wanted to bring in some interest and just kind of play with some different techniques. So I grabbed 3 different distress oxides to create kind of like an ombre going from a light pink into that like dark pink red color palette that I am going for. This is one of those things that when you watch people ink blend on like card making videos, they make it look so easy, and you have to kind of remind yourself that their video is sped up, and it's like muscle memory. It's something that they do a lot, so they've gotten really good at it. It's not something I do a lot, so I have to work for it. So I tend to just keep going over and over and over again, and eventually the ink starts to settle. It starts to look a little bit nicer. And if this was going to be like a panel, I think I would maybe have gone over it another time or two. But knowing that I'm going to die cut letters, it doesn't need to be perfect for me. I just wanted to do the panel before I die cut the letters so that the ombre was at the same height for all of the letters, if that makes sense. Now, I wanted to do some stenciling and some glitter paste. I've never opened that glitter paste, never used it. It was rock solid, so that was kind of a waste. I don't remember when I bought it. So now I'm thinking if I replace it, it's one of those things that you probably need to plan out some projects and use it quick. Or maybe just go with a different brand. So instead I pulled out this Lawn Fawn, what is it called? Liquid Stardust. The last time I used it, I remembered it being pretty clear. This time, everything had kind of settled, and it's got, I don't know that I should say brown. It ended up looking more gold than I would say like a clear Stardust. I did see in the Lawn Fawn like fan Facebook group, I searched in there and a lot of people were commenting that it happens and they just keep using it. And there's a bunch of it in here. So it's, to me, it's fine. I actually ended up really liking that it kind of pulled more gold. So another one of those things that, or at least another reason why I should pull this stuff out and play with it instead of letting it just kind of live here. So for my title, I'm gonna do some stacked die cuts. You guys know I love these. This is one of my favorite fonts for doing like a big bold title. I believe this one is still available, so I'll link it. It's from Altenew. I bought it during a sale because it was expensive. I think I got it 40 or 50% off. The other thing is I found this calendar background stamp. I think it's from Hero Arts. It's really old, but I had bought it with the intention of, you know, incorporating it with month in review projects, and I've never used it. So I pulled that out, and my intent, I think, is to try to figure out if I can incorporate it into all 12 layouts for 2022. I just grabbed a scrap of vellum, went ahead and stamped it with Versamark ink. I used some white embossing powder, and I only really need the top half, so I didn't need to stamp the whole thing anyways. I figured I could just tuck this in behind like my photo collage and start building everything on top of it. I like having elements like that sort of peek through here and there. So my ink blended panel is dry at this point. I'm going to start layering my letters on here. And this is why I wanted to do it on a panel, so that when everything is stacked and lined up together, it looks like it was from the same sheet of paper, if that makes sense. It's kind of like when you cut something out of pattern paper and the pattern matters. You want to make sure that you're lining up your letters and cutting them in order instead of just cutting them like randomly and turning the letters, because then when you go to put the word together, the paper doesn't line up, or the pattern doesn't line up, I should say. So I went ahead and I'm going to cut all of these. And again, I like to use tape because I have messed up stuff before. I am trying to put my dies away as I go. I was kind of sad. I'm pretty sure I lost a die last week. I don't know where it is. I'm trying not to think about it because I'm probably going to have to just reorder the whole set for that one piece. anyways, don't get hung up on that. We're going to move on. We're going to stack these together. This is another reason that I really like this set is it's really easy to stack, especially just in your hand. I've shown in my last video for sure and a couple recent ones, I like to use a sticky mat for some of the smaller fonts to kind of hold down the bottom layer, and then you can use like tweezers or a jewel pick, your finger, scissors, almost anything to kind of wiggle the top layers on while the sticky mat is sort of holding everything for you. This one is just, I don't know, it's so good. It's just a good basic font. It's such a good size, especially for titles. I think I'm probably going to use it for all of the months for this year. I think I want to have things like the calendar stamp, the font of my title. I'm going to have certain elements that sort of carry through from month to month that get used over and over again. Now, my journaling, I kept it really simple. If I'm trying to line it up on pre-printed lined paper, I like to underline each of my lines. I've showed this in videos before. It's kind of hard to explain. And then I used the flashlight on my phone to just make sure that the printed lines matched up with where my journaling was going to hit before I run it through my printer. It's kind of one of those things where I didn't have another one, so if I messed up, I messed up. But I was successful. Again, this is kind of like when I was talking with the ink blending. I've done this a lot. So for me, it's like muscle memory. I can do printed journaling like this pretty easily because I've done it so much. A lot of trial and error, and I figured out things that work for me. I figured out my printer, and again, like practice makes perfect kind of a thing. So most of the actual work is done. I'm going to go ahead and start assembling things. I had decided that this was going to be the basic layout of my scene. You can see that cute little bird on the U. He is not going to stay, and I'm kind of sad about it. Normally, I've done this washi trick before. You line up the letters on your mat, take a sheet of washi tape, low tack tape, Post-it tape, anything to tape all your letters together so that you can do this, or you can flip it over, put the glue on the back, and you're working in a sense with one piece instead of all of those separate letters. I've done it both ways. Something big like this, when I was trying to decide placement, it was just easier to tape it all together so that I could move it around. But I didn't think about the fact that that top layer is not a pattern paper. It is white cardstock that's been ink blended, and it's got that liquid stardust on it. So I don't want to say it's sticky or tacky itself. It's not the same animal as pattern paper. So when I go to peel off the washi tape, it ripped off the top layer in a couple places, and I was super careful to begin with. I was a little irritated. I thought about ink blending another panel and like redoing it, but at this point I was so close to the finish line that I just couldn't bring myself to do it. And this was when I looked at the pile of extra stamped images that I had, and I was like, you know what, we're gonna come up with a solution that's going to work with what I have available to me instead of taking the time to redo it. So you can see I ripped something on the Y. A couple places on the letters, the liquid stardust itself pulled up. So I took a like glitter brush marker and just kind of colored in those spots. Not exactly the same, but it did the job. Basically, I just didn't want it to be super obvious that there was like a 1/2 inch section that was almost wiped clean. So this is the point when I'm like, okay, we're just gonna put some earmuffs over this one. We're gonna have to make the earmuffs look like they should have been there. So I brought in a hat and a scarf and just kind of sprinkled them across the other layers or letters as well. And I tried to make it look as intentional as possible. I did remember to add something to my little naked bird so he wasn't naked. And that is it. So I've got photos of the layout and some detail photos. And again, anything that's still available that I've used and you have questions about, I will link below. And I will catch you guys next time.